My name is Tariq Mansour. 22 days ago, I died for 13 minutes and 51 seconds on an operating table in Hamtramck, Michigan. What I witnessed during those minutes will either convince you that grief and oxygen deprivation can manufacture elaborate hallucinations, or it will compel you, urgently, desperately, to reconsider everything you have built your life upon. Because I did not simply die and drift back. I encountered someone on the other side of that threshold. Someone I had spent 43 years dismissing, reinterpreting, and methodically denying. And he showed me 5 specific events scheduled to unfold in March 2026. Not impressions. Not symbolic visions open to interpretation. Exact dates. Exact coordinates. Exact casualty figures. Exact meteorological phenomena. And if those 5 events occur precisely as I am about to describe them, then the foundations beneath your understanding of God, religion, and human history are about to crack open. Here is what you must understand before anything else. I was born into Islam the way most people are born into gravity. Not by choice, but by the simple fact of arriving in a particular place at a particular time. My family came from Mosul, that ancient city carved between 2 rivers, layered with empire and devastation. I was raised in the strictest interpretive tradition. My father, Rashad, prayed before sunrise and after sunset, and at every prescribed interval between. My mother, Fatima, wore her faith the way she wore her skin, not as a garment she might remove, but as something inseparable from the architecture of her being. I prayed 5 times daily. I fasted through every Ramadan with genuine intention. I believed with the serene certainty of a man who has never seriously been challenged that Jesus of Nazareth was a noble prophet, a holy messenger, nothing more, and that the claim of his divinity was among the most dangerous theological errors in human history. I came to America from Iraq in 2011 as a refugee. I worked construction, then warehouses, then taught myself accounting from borrowed textbooks. By 2016, I had saved enough to open Nablus Provisions, a Middle Eastern grocery and delicatessen in Hamtramck, a city so dense with Arab and Yemeni and Bangladeshi immigrants that its city council meetings were sometimes conducted in Arabic. I married Soraya in 2013, Yemeni American, brilliant, observant, a woman who taught Quran to children on Saturday mornings and ran the women's committee at our mosque. We have 3 children, Bilal, 12, Karim, 9, and little Nadia, 6. From the outside, my life was the immigrant dream distilled to its purest form. Inside, I was hollow. My oldest brother, Samir, died in Mosul in 2007 during a marketplace bombing. He was 24 years old. He had gone to buy cardamom for my mother's tea. For 16 years I carried that image, the cardamom, the marketplace, the absence where my brother had been. Islam told me to submit to divine will, to trust that Allah's wisdom exceeded my grief. But I could not locate the wisdom in cardamom and a marketplace and a 24-year-old body torn apart by metal fragments. I buried the question. I built my life over it like asphalt over unstable ground. In December 2025, I began experiencing acute abdominal pain. I ignored it for 10 days. On January 8, 2026, Soraya drove me to the emergency room at St. Casimir Medical Center. The diagnosis was acute cholecystitis, my gallbladder, severely inflamed, requiring immediate removal. They scheduled surgery for January 12th. Routine, they said. Low risk. Home within 48 hours. I was not worried. I should have been paying closer attention. January 12th, 2026. The anesthesiologist told me to count backward from 10. I reached 6. Then I was above my own body. I want to be precise about this because I understand the neurological arguments, the hypoxic hallucination theories, the documented phenomenon of near-death experience as a product of a dying brain attempting to construct narrative from chaos. I have considered these explanations carefully, and I am telling you they do not account for what I witnessed. I could see the surgical team below me with clarity that exceeded normal vision. I saw the precise moment the attending anesthesiologist's expression changed. I heard the monitor's alarm before the surgical team reacted to it. I watched chest compressions begin with the removed, almost academic curiosity of someone watching a documentary about a stranger's emergency. And then I felt the pulling. Not physical. Something deeper, more fundamental than physical. Like being drawn by a current that had always existed just beneath the surface of waking life. And only now, untethered from my body, could I feel it. I accelerated through darkness and arrived somewhere that should not exist. No ground, yet I stood. No light source, yet I could see. Silence that was somehow deafening. I waited for the angels Munkar and Nakir, as the tradition describes, the interrogating angels of the grave who question the newly dead about their faith and their Lord. I rehearsed my answers. I prepared. They did not come. Instead, a voice arrived not through my ears, but through something deeper, through whatever part of a person constitutes their most essential self. Tariq, turn around. I turned, and every architectural belief I had ever constructed about reality simply fell. Standing before me was a man, Middle Eastern in appearance, perhaps 35 years old. Dark hair, beard, a plain white garment that seemed unremarkable in every particular, except that his presence made everything else in existence seem, by comparison, like a rough sketch. He could have walked through my neighborhood in Hamtramck without drawing a second glance. But his eyes. The moment I looked into his eyes, I knew two things with a certainty that made every previous certainty in my life feel like a guess. First, this was Jesus. Not the prophet of the Quran, Isa, the messenger, the miracle worker, the one who did not die on the cross. This was Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the one Islam had taught me with great and sincere conviction to regard as a theological misunderstanding. Second, I was in serious trouble, because in those eyes I saw myself completely. Every compromise, every small cruelty, every moment I had chosen comfort over truth, every prayer I had recited while thinking about inventory and margins and school fees. My entire interior history, exposed in a single instant. I did not choose to fall to my knees. His presence simply made standing impossible. He said, Tariq Mansour, son of Rashad, brother of Samir. I have known you since before you drew your first breath. You are standing at a threshold. In moments, your body will reach the point beyond which revival becomes impossible. And if you die as you are, as a man who rejected me, the separation will be permanent. I wanted to argue. I had spent 43 years developing the arguments. They evaporated. He continued, I did not bring you here to condemn you. I brought you here for two reasons. First, to offer you one final opportunity to accept the truth, to turn from what you have believed and receive me as Lord. Second, to make you a witness, to show you 5 events that will occur in March 2026. Events that will require the world to confront realities it has been successfully avoiding. He extended his hand, and I saw the scar in his palm, the precise, specific historical scar of a nail driven through living flesh. Proof, rendered in the language of the body, that everything I had been taught about the crucifixion was wrong. Take my hand, he said, and I will show you what is coming. But understand the cost. If you take it, you return to your life as a witness, and your life as you have known it will end. I stared at that scarred hand. Every instinct shaped by 43 years of formation screamed at me to refuse. And something older, something I could not name, whispered that this was the only real choice I would ever be offered. I took his hand. Reality dissolved and reformed around me. The first vision. I was looking down at the geography of northeastern Iran, specifically the region surrounding the city of Sabzevar, in the Razavi Khorasan province. It was 3:20 in the morning local time. The city was sleeping. And then the earth did not shake. It tore. Not a trembling, but a rupture, as if some geological seam that had been under pressure for centuries simply gave way all at once. Buildings did not sway and then collapse. They collapsed without the warning of swaying. Entire residential blocks reduced to rubble in seconds. I heard the screaming of millions of people waking into catastrophe. March 7, 2026, Jesus said beside me. At 3:22 a.m. local time, an earthquake measuring 8.7 on the Richter scale will strike the Razavi Khorasan province. The initial reported death toll will be announced as 28,000. The true toll within the first week will exceed 47,000. Cities will be uninhabitable. Millions will be displaced. The world will call it geological misfortune. Those with spiritual perception will recognize it as a call to repentance. The second vision, Mecca, the Grand Mosque, the Masjid al-Haram, the Kaaba at the center of its courtyard, pilgrims performing tawaf in the slow, reverent circle that has continued for over 1,000 years. It was midday. The courtyard was packed. And then, a sound like the earth clearing its throat, and a massive section of the marble esplanade surrounding the Kaaba collapsed inward. Not a crack, a collapse. Hundreds of worshippers fell. The stampede that followed was instantaneous. People running in every direction simultaneously, which means people running into each other, over each other, through each other. March 13, 2026, Jesus said. A structural failure beneath the Mataf, the circumambulation area, will cause a collapse during midday prayer. More than 2,800 Muslims will die in the collapse and subsequent stampede. The Saudi government will suppress accurate casualty figures. This event will fracture the faith of millions who will ask a question they have never permitted themselves to ask. How could the holiest site in Islam become a mass grave? Many will dream of me in the days that follow. The third vision, not Earth, space. A celestial object moving through the solar system. Not a comet in any configuration I had seen photographed. Not an asteroid, something whose brightness seemed to operate outside the normal physics of reflected light. Moving with a trajectory that would bring it into clear visibility from the surface of the Earth. March 18, 2026. Astronomers will detect an object they cannot adequately classify. Its brightness will violate their predictive models. Within days it will be visible to the naked eye. It will remain visible for 11 days. During those 11 days, Christian churches across 6 continents will experience spontaneous, unexplainable revival. Thousands arriving at services without prior announcement, without organized evangelism. Millions will come to me. Just as a star announced my arrival at Bethlehem, this sign announces that my return is near. The fourth vision. Hospitals overwhelmed. The specific visual grammar of pandemic. Isolation wards, exhausted medical personnel, lines outside testing facilities stretching past the edges of camera frames. But the fear on every face carried a specific quality, different from what I remembered of 2020. Not shock, but a terrible recognition, as if the world had always known this would happen again and had simply agreed not to discuss it. March 23, 2026. A novel pathogen will emerge in the Mekong Delta region of Vietnam. Within 72 hours, epidemiologists will recognize that it does not match any existing classified virus. Within 6 days, it will be detected in 39 countries. The mortality rate will be lower than initial projections. The panic will be disproportionate because humanity learned nothing about its actual vulnerabilities from the last pandemic. This is a reminder that safety is not manufactured by governments or laboratories. It is given by me alone. The fifth vision. Jerusalem, the Temple Mount, the Dome of the Rock, its golden dome catching the afternoon sun with that particular quality of light unique to that latitude and elevation. A completely clear sky, no meteorological precondition. And from that clear sky, a single bolt of lightning, the kind of lightning that seems less like weather and more like punctuation, struck the center of the dome. The sound was described badly by every human language I know. The dome cracked. A fissure ran from apex toward base. A section of the gilded exterior cladding fell. March 28, 2026 at 2:47 p.m. Jerusalem time. Lightning will strike the Dome of the Rock from a cloudless sky. The damage will be structural and visible to satellite imagery within hours. Muslims will allege a directed energy weapon. Jewish commentators will interpret it as divine authorization for temple reconstruction. Christians who understand prophecy will recognize it as a sign of imminent return. The Middle East will approach the edge of war. It will not yet cross that edge, because the timing is not yet complete in my Father's plan. This is the final warning to all three Abrahamic traditions simultaneously. The visions ended. I stood before him again in that impossible place. "Why me?" I asked. "Why a Muslim from Mosul who ran a grocery store in Hamtramck?" He placed his hand on my shoulder. "Because your testimony will reach people a Christian testimony cannot reach. When these events occur exactly as you describe them, your credibility as a former Muslim will matter. You are not being chosen because you are exceptional. You are being chosen because you are useful and because you are willing." He showed me then what my life would look like if I said yes. I saw myself telling Soraya the truth. I saw her face, the disbelief cycling into horror, horror into grief, grief into a fury grounded in genuine religious conviction. I saw the divorce proceedings. I saw my children being taught to pray for my return to Islam. I saw my mother, who had already buried Samir, learning that she had lost a second son. Not to violence, but to what she would experience as apostasy, which in her understanding was worse. I saw Nablus Provisions losing its customer base within weeks. I saw the spray-painted word on my shop window. I saw the brick through the glass at 3 a.m. I saw myself alone at 43, starting from zero in a country that was not born mine. "This is the cost," he said. "I never promised it would be comfortable. I promised it would be worth it. But I will not compel you. You may reject me. You may return to your body as a Muslim, and you will face your judgment as one. Or you may lose what is temporary and keep what is eternal. Choose." I thought about Bilal and Karim and little Nadia. I thought about my mother's face. I thought about 20 years of construction and warehouses and borrowed accounting textbooks and everything I had built. And then I thought about 47,000 people dying in a province of Iran because the earth tore open. I thought about 2,800 pilgrims falling through the floor of the holiest site in their religion. I thought about a sign in the sky that would bring millions to their knees before a God they had been taught to approach in ways that turned out to be insufficient. And I understood that if any of this was true, if this was real, then nothing I might lose in Hamtramck measured against it at all. I fell on my face. I said the words. I renounced what I had believed. I accepted what I had denied. I asked to be sent back, at whatever cost, to warn whoever would listen. Light replaced everything. Peace arrived in a quantity and quality I had no prior frame of reference for, filling spaces inside me I had not previously identified as empty. I woke up on the operating table with my chest arching and my lungs slamming back into service, and a surgical team shouting in collective disbelief. The clock on the wall read 2:29 p.m., 13 minutes and 51 seconds since the flatline. The attending physician came to my room the following day and told me, with a careful and professional puzzlement, that I should by all medical logic be showing significant cognitive deficits. Every test returned normal. Better than normal. He said it twice. I was discharged January 14th. By January 20th I had lost my wife, my children's daily presence, my mother, my siblings, my community, my business's customer base, and 2 storefront windows. I am recording this on January 23, 2026, before I leave Hamtramck. The 5 warnings are fixed. March 7th, an earthquake in northeastern Iran. March 13th, a collapse at the Grand Mosque in Mecca. March 18th, an unexplainable celestial object visible for 11 days. March 23rd, a novel pathogen emerging in the Mekong Delta. March 28th, lightning strikes the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem from a clear sky. I am not asking you to believe me today. I am asking you to remember. When March ends, and every one of these events has occurred, exactly as described on the exact dates given, you will have a choice to make. And the quality of that choice will matter far longer than any of the comfortable arrangements you are currently protecting. My name is Tariq Mansour. I died on January 12, 2026. I met Jesus Christ. He sent me back. This is your warning.